Monotheism in pre-Islamic Arabia. When we talk about Mecca, the last thing you're probably going to think of is Jews and Christians. But these groups were actually very important there a very long time ago. In fact, these people who were monotheistic, which means they believed in one God, could be found all over the Arabian Peninsula. Their ideas have had major influences on Islam that can be seen to this day. Monotheism in Arabia existed in communities of Jews, Christians, and Hanifs, and was a common knowledge to most Arabs. So, what were these people doing in Arabia in the first place? Well, Rome had kind of been taking over Israel for a while, and the Jews didn't really like that. They had not one, but two big old rebellions, both of which were brutally crushed. Well, many Jews didn't like that, and so they went down to Arabia. Once in Arabia, the Jews became very much Arab. They adopted Arab superstitious beliefs, and they changed their main language from Hebrew and Aramaic to Arabic. By the time Muhammad was born, sometime around 570 AD, the Jews in Arabia were very different from what they had been like before they left Israel. But let's not forget that as much as the Arabs influenced the Jews influenced the Arabs. Take the legends behind the Kaaba, for example. Many Arabs believe that the Kaaba was built by Abraham and his son Ishmael, two characters straight from the Torah. Besides the Arabs that converted to Judaism, one group in particular was influenced by it, known as the Hanifs. The Hanifs wanted to return to the pure religion of Abraham. This group would not have existed had the Jews had not brought their beliefs with them. By the way, the picture on this slide is of an old Christian church in the Arabian Peninsula. There aren't really any synagogues left from the early Jews. This picture, on the other, is also of a Christian church, but that works nicely for the slide because that is our next topic, the Christians. Christianity had started to spread all throughout the world, and Arabia was no exception to this. The Christians, just like the Jews, influenced the Arab world. In the Kaaba, for instance, there was an idol dedicated to Jesus. Though this probably would have been disapproved of by the Christians, it still shows the importance of that Christianity was starting to have in Arabia. Many of the ways that the Christians, and the Jews for that matter, influenced the Arabs was very subtle, such as how people became more knowledgeable about them over time. It was nonetheless very significant. It had very significant impacts in the long run. By the time of Muhammad, most people appeared to know about a decent amount most people knew a decent amount about monotheists and their beliefs. We can actually see that in some of the writings of the Quran. A scholar named Hamilton Gibb pointed out this interesting little passage of the Quran. Has he not been told of what is in the tablets of Moses and of Abraham who kept the faith? Just beginning his ministry, Muhammad said this about a man he had been talking to. Listen to his exact words. Has he not been told of what is in the tablets of Moses and of Abraham who kept faith? It kind of sounds like people knew something about Abraham and Moses from the Bible. Well, and so this was common knowledge at the time, it appears, showing just how much Christianity and Judaism had influenced the Arabs. In Arabic, Muhammad would have said something more like Ibrahim and Musa. Excuse me for my Arabic. Probably not too accurate. Most biblical names had actually been Arabicized like this, so that people could say them a little easier in Arabia. Jesus went to Isa, Moses to Musa, and Abraham to Ibrahim. Something like that. Probably saying it too much of a Spanish accent, but you get the idea. And so by the time Muhammad began having his visions, monotheism had really taken root in Arabia, and one day it would only continue to grow and become more and more important and accepted in the future. In Saudi Arabia today, nearly everyone is monotheist. In fact, only Muslims who are monotheists are allowed in Mecca. Though only a few crumbly old churches remain of the Jews and Christians of Muhammad's time, their influence on the country cannot be understated and continues to influence the world to this very day. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. By the way, I just used Wikipedia for images, not information.